So that's the military meaning of the word siege. Over here, what is happening is that everywhere, every corner, the Hindu. हमारा इलाहाबाद में बहुत पुराना बिजनेस है, दारा siege. That the Hindus are being cornered here, Hindus are being cornered there, Hindus are being put down there, and there are events and events. They have not abated, but people have become more aware of it. Now I'm going to deal in a more in the psychological or behavioral situation where Hindutva is under siege. Siege means just being surrounded and ultimately to squeeze you till you surrender or you die. So that's the military meaning of the word siege. Over here, what is happening is that everywhere, every corner, the Hindu consciousness, which is Hindutva, is being derided, it's being attacked, it's being putting attempt to put us in shame. All that's when a lot of twisting, and you've seen that. You've seen universities have been holding seminars in which they're telling all kinds of lies about Hindutva and Hindus and their behavior, how our attitudes to women, this kind of things. All the cultural, behavioral aspects of Hinduism is called Hindutva. Hinduness is the exact translation of the word Hindutva. So now, what in Ramayana Valmiki has called as gunas, which means basically attributes. Those specifically outlined by sages like Valmiki and Vishwamitra and so many others. They constitute what we call as the ethos. The English word is ethos. So now the concept is that what I have many times in my speeches, you must have got sick hearing it. I told you that, you see, it's not enough that we are 1.4 billion people. Because as I gave you the example, if you have 1,000 goats in one place and one tiger comes, the mindset of the goat is to try and run away. And the mindset of the tiger is, even though it's alone against 1,000, it is to chase them and make one of them as his lunch or dinner. So that is a mindset, and I gave you the example of a circus. And in a circus, in a cage, 5 strong, well-fed lions assemble, and one thin ringmaster enters the cage and then starts ordering them, climb up the chair, jump through the ball of fire, all that. And all the lions obey. Even though in a jungle, if the lion met this everything and it was brought up in the jungle, then it would make mincemeat of that ringmaster. But inside, having been brought up from cub stage in the circus, it behaves like a pussycat. So this mindset is the most important thing. And that is exactly what the British targeted. The minutes on education of 1835 clearly says that our idea is to make an Indian who looks like an Indian in his skin color and so on, but he dresses like a Westerner. He has mores which are Western. For example, sitting in the dining table with a fork on knife and fork and knife and knife on the right side and fork on the left side, all that. So all British habits. So that has still not gone. And we are in a situation where we are in a transitional situation, but it should not get reversed. And that is why this consciousness we are creating. So the mind is set, the way your mind is made, if your mind is free, and that is what Gita teaches you, if your mind is free and it is not brainwashed, then you will do things which are rational, logical, and good for the country. If you say, no, India is a land of two races, Aryans and Dravidians, which is what the British taught you, nobody even asks, what is the proof? Now somebody asked me, what is the proof to the counter? I said, the DNA studies. They have come in the Journal of Genetics in many places, in the Cambridge University, in Mysore University, in Houston University in USA, that Indian DNA from north to south and east to west is one DNA. That means we are one people. Even the Muslims in India, they have the same DNA as us, which means they're all mostly 99.9% converted. And whatever came from outside, they may have grabbed all our Indian women and then produced children through them. But the fact is that they were not very many. So the dominant DNA of the Hindu is now there in every sect of India. And we all know, even scheduled caste and Brahmins have the same DNA, which means that there's no such thing as a born scheduled caste and a born Brahmin. And that is true. If you read, you will say it's Brahmins are those who have the gunas of a Brahmin, which is Gyan, Tyag, and Sahas. So this is there in the Gita. I mean, I don't have to, I'm not giving you any research. This is right now in the Gita. So therefore, the concept of who we are, which I have referred to many times before, but more in the context of what people are making out to be what you are not. That is what I'm calling the siege. So therefore, I want to say to you that the mindset, which includes Shishtachar, Sanskar, and and there are many dimensions. Indians must feel as one. Not I'm a Brahmin. Why? Because you're born Brahmin. Who says you're a brown person born Brahmin is Brahmin, or a born Kshatriya is a Kshatriya? Valmiki was born in a Kshatriya family, but he is known as a great Maharishi. In fact, he is rishis of rishis. Even the gods used to be scared of him. So therefore, the amount of garbage that has been fed in, that is what I am now devoting your attention to. I think we have done enough to talk about what's happening in our history and so many other minus factors, where I wrote my book on Hindus on Siege, which became a bestseller. Now I am slowly developing the idea and through lectures first, and then later on I'll think about writing a book about Hindutva under siege. That's a new development, because you see in every part of the Western world today, they are targeting the Hindu consolidation, the Hindu unity. We are, after all, demolishing the caste system. Everybody should be praising us. Instead of that, they are seeing it as a threat. And yeah, there are crazy people. Some of them go around killing people, stabbing people. How do I know who they are? Unless you catch them and prosecute them. In fact, large numbers of people who have been caught and prosecuted for the killing somebody because they alleged that he was trying to kill a cow or he had stolen a cow. We found that they had nothing to do with any of the Hindu organizations. And so to discredit, the process takes in various forms, and the alertness for that is. Now you see, Hindus have a special characteristic, and that is one of the difficulties also we're having today. They are, their focus is on the family, but everything else they do it automatically. Now, how many people come to Kumbh Mela? 1 crore. Does anybody get an invitation to go to Kumbh Mela? Are they given a ticket to travel, or they give you money for your expenses? No, people come on their own, and they come in crores. If you compare all the days put together, it'll be in crores. But on the final day, it is at least 1.5 crores. So therefore, this is one characteristic of Hindu, who have come together as one. Shankaracharya started from Kerala. He went all the way to Kashmir. Why? To debate with the Buddhists, and then having debated, telling them, if you lose the debate, then you have to convert to my religion, which is Advaita Hinduism. Otherwise, I'll convert to yours. And he won all the way, and from a 95% Buddhist state, we became almost 85% Hindu state. So, and started expanding after that, because he began to see common elements in Buddhism and Jainism, and of course Sikhism is very clearly a common element. So, therefore, as a whole, we were easily 90%. So that is typically a Hindutva approach. Arguments, give argument. Ram Mandir, did we go and say, nah? Well, maybe a mob went and broke it, but then they were all prosecuted. They were, they had to undergo a lot of pain on that. Now, whether they demolished a masjid or didn't demolish a masjid, but they actually had demolished a temple. Why? Because 1949 people had gone and occupied that masjid. After that, there was no namaz. And it functioned as a temple. Of course, a makeshift temple, but it functioned as a temple. And what was demolished was a temple. I got to argue that, but no. The state tried to prosecute them, but couldn't identify. They were only interested in putting Advani and Murlimar Joshi and Uma Bharti and all in jail. So there was no connection. The mob which broke it, neither they could find any connection with them. So they had to be given up. But what I would like to say is, in Islamic countries, do they have, like we had a Supreme Court hearing, and went on for years and years in the High Court, and then it came to Supreme Court, and had I not come, it would have gone on another set of years, because they would only argue whose property it is. Does it belong to the Hindu trustees of the original Ram temple, or was it, what Waqf board or something, it belongs to them. That was what the Allahabad High Court was only discussing that. I took it out from that and said, this is absurd. It's a religious matter. And then you have the issue that even though the Muslims admit that archaeological survey of India showed that there was a existing temple below. I mean, there was an existing temple which was demolished and masjid built on. They said no, it is ours, and which is now so many years. But in the Islamic theology itself, it says masjid is a place to read namaz and nothing more, and namaz can be read anywhere. So when we say Hindutva, we must also know what the other side is proposing. So, but still we argued it, and that is the Shastrat concept of Adi Shankara, that we will only argue. and by argument we'll win. We'll have a rule, and that's how Mandana Mishra was converted into Shringeri Acharya and so on, and Hinduism was revived. Today also we are ready to argue with the Muslim community, with the Christian community. We don't have to argue with the Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, even Parsis, and of course Jews have all gone back to Israel now. So when I say Hindutva, it is the Hindutva is the Hindu-ness of Indians, which means arguments, patience, doesn't matter how much time it takes, and being absolutely sure about what your culture is. And in that Hindutva, we are not cowards. We are not discussing because we are cowards. In the case of Ramayana, Rama went to, in hunt for Sita, and he ran into Hanuman. And then Hanuman took him to Sugriv, and Sugriv was hiding in a forest. He said, "You are supposed to be a king, why are you hiding?" He said, "My brother Bali, he brought brought a strong army. He has a pact with Ravan, and he has not only kicked me out of my kingdom, but he has also stole my wife." So Rama, the most Maryada Purushottam, the most moral person for us to emulate, what he does, he tells Sugriv, "Listen, this Bali is not an easy man to defeat. So I have to do some tigdam." So what he tells him is that because you both look alike, you wear a mala, and then I will know who is Bali and who is Sugriv, and I will hide behind a tree and kill Bali. And that's how he kills him. But before dying, Bali asks Rama, "You are supposed to be Maryada Purushottam, and you did it like a coward, hiding behind a tree. You could have come before me, and if you had killed me, I would have gone to heaven with great pleasure. But I never expected this from you." He said, "Oh, you're teaching me morality? The man who stole Sugriv's wives, who stole his kingdom? Morality is only when the other side also believes in morality. I will not rely on morality when I'm dealing with an immoral guy, a person like you. You deserve to die the way you died." Now, this is Hindutva. We can't go on all the time saying morality. Like we are today talking with China. Let's talk. Talk is better. No. The Chinese quietly came after, you were given lunch, dinner, and breakfast by the Xi Jinping for 18 times, and 5 times in big gatherings, and you didn't know that they crawled into your country and taken your land in a clandestine way. There's only one way. There's war. That is Hinduism. Hinduism is not. People say, "Oh no, we have a legacy of peace." Mahatma Gandhi it was a short run thing, because Mahatma Gandhi knew we didn't have weapons. The British had weapons, and therefore he thought that Satyagraha is the best way, and they'll unite the people, create a party. But ultimately the British learned, because when they found that we had in the end had some kind of an army of Subhash Chandra Bose, and they were so scared that they ran away. And in the process, as fast as possible, they partitioned the country and handed over the non-Muslim part, as they thought they were handing over to us. That's how it happened. But we have even Krishna, he told Duryodhan, let's have peace. Just give them 5 villages. Take Indraprastha also. Take Hastinapur also. And this man arrogantly said, "No, I won't even give the space on the tip of a needle." Then Krishna said, "War is inevitable." And then Duryodhan tried to arrest Krishna and see that he doesn't go to battle, and keep him in jail. That is when Krishna took out his Sudarshan Chakra, and everybody in the Raj Bhavan, they all ran helter-skelter. So, Hindutva means ready to fight, but as a last resort. We are not trigger-happy people like our neighbor Pakistan. We and get beaten. Pakistan, how many times they've been beaten? 4 times. Still they have not learnt any lesson. So we talk peace. We want peace. We want to argue. We are ready to argue with the Muslims. We are ready to argue with the Christians. Even what is clearly ours, we will argue for that. Argument is a part of Hindutva. And violent action to defend your right, that is a last resort. But our gods and goddesses also have weapon in one hand and flower in the other hand. And we don't distinguish between men and women. I was in a country which produced Rani Jhansi. They produced Chennamma in Karnataka. So many women warriors. It was never that women will sit at home and cook or will manage the palace or whatever. So, and of course, all the main goddesses, they are actually the ones who you pray to for. If you want finance, you pray to Lakshmi. If you want good marks in your studies, you pray to Saraswati. And if you want to be saved from your enemy, you pray to Durga. Is there any other religion like that? So this is also part of the Hindutva. Religion is what the description. And that description is limited. Even Krishna, in his last thing, he says, I think I've noted it in the last chapter, which is 18th chapter, in 63. He says, thus the knowledge that is more secret than any secret was told by me to you. He tells Arjuna. Considering this thoroughly, he tells Arjuna, you may do just as you wish. Have you seen any other religion where the God says you may do as you wish? This is Hindutva. We never force our opinion on anybody. Even the gods don't force their opinion on anybody. And he says openly. And today we only argue on hijab. We are saying, please, this is not our culture. We will do it. But is it in the Quran? It's not in the Quran. But somebody quoted me a chapter, and if I can read out to you, I'm not so sure the women were going to like this. It is chapter 24, paragraph 31, and the thing is called light. Light in Arabic has a special name, and that is il nur or something like that. And what does it say? He is quoting God to say, and God is saying to believers, say to believing women that they should lower their gaze, remain chaste, and not to reveal their adornments. Say what is normally apparent thereof, and they should fold their shawls over their bosoms. I mean, this is in a religious text. This is their right. I mean, I have nothing to say except I'm just reading what it says. They can only reveal those adornments to their husbands only, or their fathers, or their husbands' fathers, or the sons, or their husbands' sons, or their brothers, or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or maid servant, or those whom the right hand possess, or their male attendant who has no sexual desire. This is the detail it is saying. Who have no sexual desire, who still, or children who still have no carnal knowledge of women, etc. So go on. Now, there is nothing like this in our religion. I'm not saying that I was better, but I think this is a different religion. And there is nothing about hijab. And there cannot be hijab. When he says you cover everything, where is the question of just hijab? So, Hindus do not prescribe. In the Hindus, number one, Hindutva means converting people by arguments. When arguments fail, when you are not willing to give what is on the tip of a needle, go to war. There is never any place in our Hindutva that we will not go to war. The Chinese, we have to go to war because we had long discussions with them. We even entered into a territorial agreement in 1993 when Narasimha Rao was there, saying that whatever land is presently in occupation of two countries will stay like that temporarily, and we'll discuss and decide what the law says and what the maps say and so on. But they violated that also. So, in the Hindutva's requirement today is that we must get the land, which you are not going to get by discussion. They are every day abusing that fellow, our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. There is no shame, goes on, says this and that. Now he's started saying slightly harder things. But that the Chinese have said, don't be irrelevant. Their reply to the latest statement of our thing, where is this Hindutva? Now, I give you the substantive part. I am telling you even the superficial part. If you are going to a factory, I am not asking you to go in dhoti, because it's dangerous. I don't know, the machine might suck in the thing. Even people have get difficulty climbing stairs in in the aeroplane when they're boarding an aeroplane. Women, of course, seem to manage by the so far, but sarees also are very difficult. But there's the Maharashtrian way of wearing sarees, which is you can even do horse riding with that. So I am saying this country's weather, this country's seasons are such that the Western clothes are not suitable. Yet our ministers, our members of parliament, our businessmen, they all go dressed with tie, and all this tie is the most useless thing that anybody can think of in a dress. They put tie, the coat, and these are all Western. This is also against Hindutva. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody must now change and go back to wearing Indian clothes or Hindu clothes, what we had in the past. But I would say, don't flaunt it. And certainly, if you are a representative of this country, you can't wear Western clothes. You should not. The country should not tolerate that. Maybe other countries do it. Japan, of course, Japan was conquered countries. They may do it. But I would say, when we talk about Hindutva, no compulsion. But we can say, this is our goal, this is our aim. And we are not opposed to any ideas which are good ideas. That's why Parliament, there is a big signboard. Aham nija paraveti ganana lagu chetasam udar charita namatu vasudeva kutumbakam. That is, the whole world is ours. Don't think in the small things like this is mine and this is yours. Think the whole globe is yours. That is the Hindu principle. So, let me then move forward. The Hindutva concept of dealing with people is what Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara showed you, that is Shastrat, persuasion. So first is persuasion. If he doesn't listen to persuasion and he is committing a crime, and a crime against you, society, then you retaliate not with persuasion, but with weapons. That is Hindutva. We are never a passive country. In Pakistan, nobody is going to say adopt Gandhian principles with Pakistan. There is no use even talking to them. So, I think these are things which should have been taught. We used to be taught, but now after the British changed our education system, we have not managed to wipe out all this nonsense from our history books and our social science books. In fact, they set up a history review, history new textbook committee, and then all the bureaucrats got in. And even today, after 8 years, there is no book yet ready. The man who could have got the book done, if he had been chairman, Rajiv Malhotra, they pushed him out and made him disgusted, and he left himself. He didn't want to waste his time. So I'm saying that therefore Hindutva has to be inculcated today. When you start bit by bit, first you know your correct history, as I have said many times, the correct history, how nobody could bring us down. You see, the Muslims overran Iran when the Zoroastrians were at the peak of their power. And with pure brute force, they ran over. 15 years, they converted the whole of Iran to Islam. Iran was not an Islamic country, or Persia was not an Islamic country. In fact, in Ramayana, Dashrath married Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi was a prince of Iran. And when Rama was to go to the forest, where was Bharat and Shatrughan? They were two people managing a part of Iran. I mean, they were governors. They had to come. That's why when Rama left, they were not there. They only later on went running to Chitrakoot and Metram. So we had a very huge area. I'm not going into that, but the fact is that even there, Kaikeyi, she fought the battle alongside with Dashrath. Women have been fighting battles. They have been even driving the chariot, like Krishna did it for Arjuna. So, number one, I would say, the other sieges, I've said about the dress code for formal occasions. You can, informal occasions, you can wear any dress, you can wear Chinese dress, you can wear Western dress, it doesn't matter. But why? Because it's a psychological thing. I don't think it's a very big issue, but I think this psychological thing that you don't, that is point number one. Number two, in our Hindutva, we condemn jealousy, but India is flooded with jealousy. I've seen that in any place where I was, for a brief while in the academics in India. My God, what jealousy! How to block me? How to do this? How to that? In IIT, in Delhi school, Amartya Sen companies ensured that because I was not of the same ideological view, I would not be. That kind of jealousy has come over the years when the British inculcated it, because they kept saying he dresses like this, therefore we are giving him a higher post. You are unfit to get any promotion. So dress code, inferiority complex. Don't be ever jealous. If you read Ramayana, Mahabharata and other things, you will know that the worst thing that a Hindu can have is jealousy. Instead of trying to pull him back, try to overtake him by your sheer hard work. And follow Krishna, who says that you have freedom of action, but the results of that I decide. That's what Krishna says in Gita. Follow that. If you win, fine, don't over-celebrate. If you lose, don't go into depression. Have an evenness. So, evenness of temper, evenness of emotions. That is another aspect of it. So, but we are now finding, why I'm saying siege. What happened to me in Harvard? I was, how many years I taught? From 63, 1963, not 1963, I went to 62. I went to Harvard, got a PhD. I cleared the PhD general, so they allowed me to start teaching while I was writing my thesis. So I became a teacher, what they called as a teaching fellow. Then I finished my PhD in 1 year and collaborated with a very famous. My thesis advisor was very, very famous. The founder of GDP, Simon Kuznets, and then I was joint author with Paul Samuelson, and I became assistant professor, then associate professor. And the time when I become professor, I got attracted to go to India. Went to India, and I got nothing but jealousy. And jealousy by all these people who are now behaving like servants in the West. And what happened is this, that because I had filed court cases against Sonia, a a campaign was let loose in Harvard with the Indian scholars, those Indians who study Hinduism and all that and do all that nonsense, who used to come to India. They were contacted and said that because Harvard University wanted a campus in India, they contacted these people and said, raise this question that Swami has written an article in DNA in India. Now, what business is it of theirs, what I say in India? And secondly, in India, people, and it was not a new thing, it has already had come in my book on deterrence and defense, which was a bestseller, which even Manmohan Singh ordered 500 copies and put it on all the libraries of our embassies. And there was one line I said, mosque, if the terrorists, I didn't say Muslim, I said if the terrorists demolish Hindu temples, then there are mosques where these terrorists stay, you demolish them. And in case of Hindu temples, and if they have been formed with Prana Pratishta Puja, then nobody can demolish it. But if it is some temple which is suddenly put up on the street, on the footpath or pavement, that can be demolished. If Prana Pratishta Puja is done, you can't touch it. So I said the temples can't be touched. But masjid, they are demolished by, in Turkey, to build roads they are demolishing. In Saudi Arabia they are demolishing. You can go to Google and type and you will get all the entire list of how many masjids they have demolished in the last 40 years or 30 years. So because masjid is a place to read namaz. And all right, I am misinterpreting Turkey and I'm misinterpreting Saudi Arabia. But a constitutional bench of Sri Venkatachalaya had, headed by Venkatachalaya as Chief Justice, had in a judgment called Ismail Faruqi versus the Union of India, he said mosque is not an essential part of Islam. And therefore it can be demolished. It's being demolished in the Muslim countries. It also was demolished during the British period. So mosque can be, I only said this, that if they demolish temples, if they loot temples, if they burn temples, then you retaliate, because most of these mosques are built on temples, so you revive those. So this was a defense strategy. I'm not saying that do this. I'm only saying if they are going to do it, there should be some retaliation. All right. This came in a newspaper, and what they did, they Department of Economics ignored all these anonymous letters and so on, and again for the 11th time asked me for that year. Every year I used to go in the summer. So from 2000 to 2011 I had gone. So 2012 they said, come again, because your courses are very popular. And somebody raised objection. They said, no, in class he has never said anything. I won't also. Why should I was doing mathematical economics and the economy of China. How I can bring Hindutva in that? So they cancelled my course. Of course, now, and then they said this is hurt the feelings, this is hate speech, this, that, and then Ms. Sonia Gandhi arranged with Chidambaram, numerous hate speech cases against me. All of them I won. The last one I won was the worst of them, because Jetli also got involved after we came to power. In 2015, they filed a case in the border of Bangladesh, Karimganj. A judge, of course, he was, it's not important that he was Muslim, but he was Muslim and the complainant was also Muslim. He said that I have said in a speech, in a lecture to Guwahati University, that mosques can be demolished. And so, therefore, hate speech. And the man issues a warrant in my name. And then, of course, I went to Guwahati High Court after the Supreme Court gave me leave to go without getting arrested. And I got it smashed. And the High Court, passed such strictures against the magistrate. I think the magistrate should be ashamed. So, therefore, I am saying today that I have been put all through this because I am articulating logically the Hindutva thing. Why they don't want Hindutva to grow in the West? Why they are putting on siege? Why they got all these new committees which are holding all kinds of these things? 41 universities they invite and then say horrible things about and everything is twisted. Even the vice president has said a few things which I think should not have been said. So it is because unity of India would mean the and we are 80%, 81, 80, 82%, including Sikhs, and if these 82% get united, India will not be amenable to anybody. You have to have these what the Americans call as Uncle Toms, which means black skin color black, but considering the white man as a lord and master. So that you will have an independent view. You will not take the research of the West. You will have own research of your own country. This is also part of the siege because its mindset is the same thing as those goats who ran away, even being 1,000. The same way the lions in a circus. They want your mind to be captured. And that mind cannot be captured if you are clear about your Hindutva values. That is, Hindu is a theology. Hindutva is a behavioral concept. How a Hindu behaves. How I behave towards my father. That's also part of Hindutva. How I behave to my wife. How does my wife behave to me? How do I behave to my mother? These are all parts of Hindutva. Treatment of women is also part of Hindutva. And that's why we have goddesses who are more powerful than male goddesses, male gods. So I'm saying that the West today has got this thing, particularly Britain, Canada, and the United States. These three countries have begun targeting anyone who wants to rewrite history. I don't say it is called rewriting history. I call it defalsification of Indian history. All this Aryan Dravidian theory is all bakwas. It's all nonsense. And it hasn't got support in DNA studies. It hasn't got support in any genetic studies. DNA studies show we all have the same DNA. And now what do you have to say? Now Aryan Dravidian theory is no more, tom-tommed in the West because DNA studies have destroyed it. So the unity of a Hindu, and I'm not saying if you unite you have to be against the Muslims. No, we can have, if the Muslim culturally is with us, there is absolutely no problem. I mean, in the freedom fighting thing, so many Muslims, laid down their lives for the independence of India. And even the man who Jawaharlal Nehru irritated and sent him to Pakistan wrote a beautiful song called Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan Hamara. So I am not saying that if you are going to unite the Hindus or the Hindutva is going to be spread, it is going to be directed against you. If it's going to be directed against anybody, it will be against the anglicized Hindu and not against the Muslims and Christians. But of course, we cannot forget human rights. We cannot forget the Constitution. And if the Constitution says that men and women are equal, and they must get equal inheritance, if the law is interpreted that way, then Muslims also will have that. Like triple talaq, we got it abolished. So now there is, right now, for if a boy gets a share in the after the parents pass away and they give one share, the daughters are only going to get 1/6 of that. So why these inequalities we cannot have? We must have men and women equal, and all, of course, everybody equal, but gender equality, these are all part of the Hindutva. And therefore, I'm sorry to have taken up so much time. If there are a few questions left, I'll be happy to take it. But I'm saying today Hinduism is now is people are most now quite openly. Not in my when I was in college, people didn't want to even say Hindu. When I was they used to say I'm a Hindu, but I am not communal. I mean that's how they used to speak. Today, people have some pride about Hindus, but Hindutva is different. It's a quality of being Hindu, and that quality is in our scriptures. It's in our Ramayana. It's in our Mahabharat. It's in Upanishads. It's in Puranas. It's all over. I mean, some good teacher can teach you. So that Hindutva mindset has to come, and that is how I think India can make a progress. It is not the Muslims and the Christians need not be afraid. Parsis never got afraid. They are even smaller than the Christians. But has any Parsi ever got afraid? The British went and asked them, said, can you give us, we are giving Anglo-Indians some reservations in the parliament, future parliament of India. We'd like to give you reservations on them. No, he said, we came running from Iran and the Hindus looked after us. The Jews said the same thing. Then the Hindus never bothered us. Why these Muslim and Christians are getting so agitated? Because they want to convert us. They stop giving, if they give up conversion, if they say culturally we are Hindus, because we are born here, your DNA says you are here, you are the same DNA as mine. So you are culturally, the way you dress, the way you talk should be same. But you can follow your religion without any obstruction that you see in the Western world today. So that is the message I would like to convey. I will have more, maybe I'll now try to organize a debate in one of our Gyan Ganga meetings. But Hindutva is under international siege. They are trying to create a feeling that you are a fanatic and you are a hate speech man, and therefore you should not be allowed to come to the West. You should not get a visa. All these things are being planned. Don't worry about it. If India is great, they will all fall in line. Today, let our minds be cleared of the cobwebs which the British built in it. Thank you very much, Jagdish and friends. Now, if there are any further proceedings, you may handle.
Dr. Sawmy, you know, Dr. Sawmy, you know that some of the Western universities and even some Western countries like US, taking advantage of what's happening in India, have been spreading this Hindu phobia. Like, for example, some universities in the West, and also what reaction to the hijab controversy. You saw that US condemning it in some way. What do you say for all this type of thing? Because this also shows the Hindutva under siege from such vested interest and such vested interest countries and the Western media. So I would like to have your views, because many of the viewers have been asking in our chat box, what is your reaction to this? This also is like Hindutva under siege in an intellectual form.
Yes, of course. First, let's be clear. Nobody is saying the Muslim women should not wear hijab if they want to. But since it's not an essential part of Islamic theology, and it's nowhere in the Quran, nowhere. Maybe it's there in Hadith or Sirah, but it's not in the Quran. And so if the school says as a uniform, and Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, everybody should wear the same uniform so that nobody knows who's rich, who's poor. They should buy from the same department store which the school would have contracted with, so that even the texture of the cloth is the same. Then hijab cannot be a compulsory requirement. And I was shocked to see slogans like first hijab, then kitab, that is books. That is something that, let the West say anything. They can say anything. After all, I only said what the Supreme Court said, the mosques can be demolished, and They have created such a hullabaloo. They got Indians also, by the way, who were not, of course, part of any department or anything. They were just peripheral. They were at some Asia Institute or something like that, who screamed at me. But I mean, they didn't. By the way, they didn't even invite me to give my point of view. This is totally against the law. Equal. You know, we have in law. If somebody makes an accusation, I have a right to reply. They never give me time to reply. Anyway, we'll see what happens when I file the case. But now that Guwahati High Court has given me a tremendous judgment, and I'll utilize that to show how fake their allegations against me were. But I'm only saying that whether it's a hijab, whether it's a mosque, which is built on a temple, they cannot claim it to be an essential part of Islam because it's nowhere there. And in their own Arab countries, they demolish mosques. So hijab is the question. On your question on hijab, it's a totally manufactured, fabricated issue, and we should be firm to see that as far as schools are concerned, we maintain in the classroom. They can come to school with hijab, no problem, but you can't enter the class. That is the basis on which we should proceed.
Arvind, do you have a question before I ask my next?
Dr. Sawmy, good evening. I missed a major portion of your speech on this topic. In fact, I wanted to participate from the beginning. Because of technical problem, I connected very late. So I missed what you said. But I have few questions in my mind which I will put forward before you. First of all, when we talk about Hindu unity versus anti-Hindu faction in country, we say all Hindus should get united. But when it comes to elections, every political party, including Bharatiya Janata Party and Indian National Congress, the two major parties, or the regional parties in whichever part of India, they only go by selection of candidates based on the caste. Not only go by selection of candidates by caste, even entire campaign is based on caste lines. And all the regional leaders that we have in India, they are basically a leader of their own caste. I'm not naming the parties. There's no need for naming the parties or leaders. But each individual regional party leader is a leader of the caste or a faction of the caste. Now, how do we achieve this goal of uniting Hindus when we have every now and then, in fact, elections take place in India almost every time. In fact, every year, assembly or parliament or local bodies or whatever. So how do we unite Hindus? How do we achieve those goals? And when Jagdish says and you say that Hindus are under siege, not only in India, internationally, that means the unity is the call of the day. But how do we achieve this unity when we have factions within factions in the parties and in the political structure?
Well, I think first of all, during the freedom movement, a lot of highly educated, enlightened people entered public life. After Jawaharlal Nehru came, slowly dummies were taken. And I think now we have reached the bottom of the pit. And I will exclude no party on that. The reality is this. First of all, notice what happened in 1977 election. In North Indian states, which is more casteist than many of the other states in the south, not a single seat went to anybody on the basis of caste. There's only one who is going to drive away the emergency. And the Janata Party was picked. People like George Fernandez, who were Mangalorean Christians and were in jail. Muzaffarpur elected him with a huge majority. I went to Bombay, the most anti-Madrasi place in Bombay itself, because Shiv Sena was a very strong force. In those days, Shiv Sena was dead against Madrasis, dead against. And they put up a candidate against me also, or rather they campaigned for the Congress against me. But I won, and by a huge majority. I won again the second time. The third time Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated, so we all lost and I also lost. Then I went for Lok Sabha to Madurai, another highly casteist area. Even though it was my hometown, I mean ancestral hometown. Jayalalitha, with whom Narayan told me that ADMK has never won that seat, even MGR's time they didn't win it. So we won't be able to help you at all. So I said, I made a promise to my mother, I'll fight and I'll see. And I fought only on certain economic issues. And I won. And by a very large margin. So I think the fault is the politicians who are not able to address the electorate on anything but this base concept of main tumhara hoon aur tum mera ho. This caste matter, religious matters. Hindutva is not a religious matter. You are uniting all castes. So therefore, and that's 82%. But these now even BJP is degenerated into selecting on the basis of caste, and that is because they don't know what else to speak. And caste overrides, they think, that all the failures they've had. So the only cure is if people enter politics. But from Jawaharlal Nehuru's time, it has always been something very dirty. People have always asked me, how could you give up Harvard professorship to come to politics? As if Harvard professorship is a much higher status than parliament. So the elite looking down on politics, which is not there in America, Canada and USA or any of the other, France or whatever, there people very well educated, well placed, they come to politics if you have the taste for it. So that is the solution, and I agree with you that we must deal with it. But it is, once you come, then you have to educate people. Don't vote, don't accept bribes from, or if you take bribes from everybody, but vote for who you think is the best candidate. Well, that's the second best.
डॉक्टर स्वामी, मैं कुछ सवाल हिंदी में पूछना चाहता हूँ.
जी पूछिए.
हम आज उत्तर प्रदेश में चुनाव का तीसरा दौर था और 2 दौर उत्तर प्रदेश में चुनाव के हो चुके हैं. उत्तर प्रदेश में पिछला चुनाव 2017 में हुआ था, 2017 में, और बहुत भारी बहुमत से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की विजय हुई थी. और जैसा कि अभी आपने कुछ मिनट पहले बताया कि सारी जातियों को एक करके हिंदू को इकट्ठा, इसी प्रश्न पर 2017 का चुनाव हुआ था और भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने 4 में से 3 सीटें जीती थी, 75% लगभग से और ज्यादा सीटें जीती थी. लेकिन इस चुनाव में 5 साल के बाद वही भारतीय जनता पार्टी जिसने जाट लैंड में जाटों को हराया, यादव लैंड में यादव को हराया और सभी क्षेत्रीय जो प्रभुत्व वाली जगह थी वहां पे भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने 5 साल पहले विजय प्राप्त की थी. लेकिन इस वर्ष विशेष तौर पर चुनाव के पूरे कैंपेन में जो मैंने कहा वही मैं रिपीट करना चाहता हूं कि वही पार्टी जिसने हिंदुत्व के प्रश्न पर हिंदुओं को एक करके विजय प्राप्त की थी, अब फिर अपनी विजय के लिए उनको जातियों में बांट रही है. तो इस तरह कैसे कौन जिम्मा लेगा इसका, कौन जिम्मेदारी लेगा, कौन कर्तव्य निभाएगा इसका?
देखिए, पिछले चुनाव में जो प्रचार का मुख्य मुद्दा था वो था नरेंद्र मोदी की नेतृत्व। अब इस बार नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ेंगे तो लोग कहेंगे इकॉनमी तो चौपट है, क्या इसकी नेतृत्व है? चाइना ने तुम्हें पीट पीट कर पीछे कर दिया और तुम कहते हो कोई आया नहीं, कोई गया नहीं। हाँ, तो हमें ऐसा मुद्दा जो आम तौर पर लोगों को गर्व पैदा करने की जो मुद्दे हैं उसको बोलने की हम विवश हो गए हैं, नहीं बोल सकते। मैंने एक कैंडिडेट से भी पूछा, भाई तुम इतना अनुभवी व्यक्ति हो, आप चुनाव में ये जात क्यों बोल रहे हो? तो उन्होंने कहा मैं और क्या बोलूं। और चुनाव उसी बेसिस पर जीतने के लिए उन्होंने जात पर किया। तो उन्हें आज मंदिर उत्तराखंड में आप जाकर, मुझे नहीं पता कि उत्तराखंड में हम कहीं जीतने वाले हैं, ऐसा नहीं लगता अभी। हो सकता है हम जीत जाएं, माफ़ कर दें लोग, पर तो हमने मंदिरों को छुड़वाने के लिए हमारी मैनिफेस्टो में लिखी है और वहाँ जाकर सारी मंदिरों को ले लिया अपने हाथ में। वहाँ कोर्ट जाने के बाद अब उनको थोड़ा ये आया तो अब छोड़ेंगे, ऐसा कहा भी, छोड़ा कि नहीं मैं नहीं जानता। तो राम सेतु को राष्ट्रीय धरोहर बनने के लिए तैयार नहीं। राम मंदिर के मैं पूरा इतिहास दूंगा तो आपको लगेगा भाई वाह, ये तो मुझे पता ही नहीं था। अब वो ये उसका समय नहीं है, मैं नहीं बताऊं। बट मैं कहता हूं कि आज हिंदुत्व में बोलने के इनके पास किसी को अधिकार नहीं है। लोग कहेंगे हाँ ऐसे ही चुनाव में बोलते हो, अब पेट्रोल का दाम इतना बढ़ गया, चाय का दाम इतना बढ़ गया, नौकरी मिलती नहीं है, बेरोजगारी इतनी बढ़ गई, तो उसमें जात से उभर के लोग इससे ऊपर आकर वोट देंगे, उस उम्मीद से ये कर रहे हैं। जहाँ तक
आखिरी प्रश्न मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ, जो आपने अभी राम सेतु का जिक्र किया। हाँ, नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में 2019 में विशाल बहुमत से भारतीय जनता पार्टी आई थी, 303 सीटें जीती थी और उस समय भी सारे हिंदू जाति के ऊपर उठकर नरेंद्र मोदी के पक्ष में खड़े हुए थे, उन्होंने वोट दिया था। राम सेतु का मुद्दा जो है, जब आपने राम सेतु को मुक्त कराया कोर्ट के माध्यम से, न्यायालय के माध्यम से, आप अकेले व्यक्ति थे जिन्होंने संघर्ष किया और जो सफल हुए, और राम सेतु को राष्ट्रीय धरोहर के प्रश्न पर वही हिंदूवादी सरकार आनाकानी कर रही है और लगभग 3 वर्ष से ऊपर हो चुके जो मामला प्रधानमंत्री के कार्यालय में पड़ा हुआ है। तो जब हम हिंदुत्व की बात करते हैं तो हिंदुत्ववादी सरकार ये काम नहीं करती। अभी 1 महीने पहले की बात है, जब जनवरी में सरकारी छुट्टियां पूरे साल के लिए बनती हैं, तो इस वर्ष रामनवमी को छुट्टी नहीं है, जन्माष्टमी को छुट्टी नहीं है। जो हिंदू त्योहार हैं उनको वैकल्पिक छुट्टी में डाला गया है। सरकार, मतलब किस तरह की सरकार हमारे पास है? मोहम्मद प्रॉफिट का जो जन्मदिन है वो तो सरकारी छुट्टी में है, लेकिन जन्माष्टमी और रामनवमी के दिन हमें छुट्टी नहीं दी जा रही है, रक्षाबंधन में छुट्टी नहीं दी जा रही है। ये हिंदू सरकार के अंदर हो रहा है। इसको आप किस नजरिए से देखते हैं?
मैं क्यों देखूं भाई, ये तो मुझे तो कोई अधिकार नहीं है इसमें कुछ देखने के लिए। मैं पब्लिक में बोल सकता हूँ, बट चुनाव खत्म होने दो फिर बोलूँगा। आज मैं कुछ बोलूँगा तो कहेंगे कि हमने चुनाव में परिणाम खराब कर दी। तो आपकी बात मैं तो कहता हूँ ना, उत्तराखंड में हमारी पराजय होगी तो इसीलिए होगी कि आपने जहाँ हिंदुत्व के नाम पर आपने कहा कि मंदिरों को कोई नहीं छूना चाहिए, कोई सरकार नहीं छूना चाहिए, आपने वही किया। तो इसीलिए मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ये चुनाव के बाद हम लोगों को एक विश्लेषण करना चाहिए, और जिन्होंने धोखा दिया हमारे पुनीत या श्रद्धापूर्व जो हमारी सिद्धांत थी, उनको सजा देनी चाहिए।
जगदीश।
डॉक्टर स्वामी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अरविंद, यू कैन रैप अप द शो, इट्स ऑलरेडी 9:15 और 9:08।
डॉक्टर स्वामी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपने जो नई पुस्तक लिखी है उस पुस्तक को सारी भाषाओं, भारतीय भाषाओं में अनुवादित करके हमको प्रयास करना चाहिए कि हर एक हिंदू के पास पहुंचे, और जो आपके विचार हैं बहुत कम हिंदू नेता इस देश में हैं जो वास्तव में हिंदुत्व की रक्षा के लिए प्रयास कर रहे हैं। और आपका लगातार ये 5वीं पुस्तक है जो आपने हिंदुत्व को लेकर लिखी है, और हमने समय समय पर ज्ञान गंगा के इस प्रोग्राम में वर्ड्स ऑफ विजडम के वी हैव डिस्कस्ड इट सेवरल टाइम्स। देयर आर सो मेनी अदर इश्यूज which are related, and you have stood for these issues. Thank you very much, Dr. Sawmy, for taking the cudgels on the behalf of Hindus and raising this voice. Not only that, you have always been advocating the reforms in Hindu. You said Renaissance, not only reform but Renaissance. And once the पुनरुत्थान, एक बार अगर हिंदुत्व का पुनरुत्थान हो गया और बहुत कम हिंदूवादी नेता इस देश में बचे हैं जो इस प्रकार का प्रयास कर रहे हैं, आपको विराट हिंदुस्तान संगम की ओर से, अपनी ओर से और तमाम हिंदू संगठनों की ओर से इसलिए धन्यवाद, साधुवाद। और आप ही हैं जो इस प्रयास को कर रहे हैं। हम आगे भी इस प्रकार के मुद्दों को वर्ड्स ऑफ विजडम ज्ञान गंगा में उठाते रहेंगे, और जो अदर issues which are not been discussed so far because of paucity of time, we'll be taking up those issues again. Thank you Jagdish for organizing this program. Thanks the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Swaminathan, Vishal Mehta, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Ajesh and Ashish. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting again next Sunday 8 p.m. like every other Sunday, and bringing up another issue related to the cause of Hindutva or related issues. Thank you, Dr. Sawmy. We'll be meeting again next Sunday. Thank you, viewers, for joining us and supporting us in huge numbers. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting next Sunday. Till then, Namaskar. Jai Hind.